So we're going to get started now. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. Schneps Media is the largest local media company in the Metro New York area. We publish over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events throughout Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, Long Island, and Philadelphia. And today we're thrilled to be able to bring you the Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show meet and greet with fiber artist Amy Gillespie. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I'm going to tell everyone a little bit about the museum, the Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show, and then we will get started. So the 44th Annual Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show moves to an online event this year. It's a premier showcase of contemporary craft and design scheduled online for Friday, November 6th through Sunday, November 8th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's going to be a virtual preview on November 5th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. You'll have an opportunity to see museum quality contemporary craft and design right at your fingertips with a simple click from the comfort and safety of your home. So for the 44th annual, but first virtual Philadelphia Museum of Art Contemporary Craft Show from November 6th through the 8th, admission is free with a suggested gift of $10 to support the Philadelphia Museum of Art. You can enjoy early access to the show on November 5th with the virtual preview from 4 to 8 p.m. Subscribe to the preview and experience a first look at the artists and their work. More than 150 of the finest artists in contemporary craft and design from across the country will be highlighted. Categories included are clay, fiber, metal, and wood, plus jewelry, wearables, and furniture. Experience live streaming, artist demonstrations, artist videos, studio visits, and opportunities to connect to the artists. The show is presented annually for the benefit of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. For more information, you could visit www.pmacraftshow.org, and I will put that in the chat function, so you'll be able to see it as well. Now, without further ado, it is really my honor to have with us a very talented fiber artist from Massachusetts who creates colorful sculptural pieces made with felted wool, paint, and wood. Welcome, Amy Gillespie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody.
So happy to have you here. So tell me, is this the first year? For how long have you been doing the Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show?
So I have been so lucky to have gotten into the show 10 times over the past 12 years. So it blows my mind that I've gotten in so many times. It's such an amazing show, and I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Oh, what do you love about it? What is special about the show?
It's interesting, you know, I've been doing shows for 30 years, and with Philadelphia, if you haven't been there, you walk into that show, and the word museum in association with the show is so apt because it feels like a museum when you walk in, with the benefit that the artists are alive and you can actually buy the work.
Right.
And the thing that's great about it is, you know, there's a lot of curatorial input that, you know, you have curators from the museum actually involved in curating the show. And it really feels that way. And I think that they look for not only excellence in craft, but they're looking for people who are innovating within their medium and really pushing the boundaries of their chosen craft. And so the work always feels fresh to me, and it's always exciting. Even for me as an artist, I know a lot of my fellow artists that are there, but even for me, I walk around and my mind is blown by the quality and the ingenuity that comes through. And I really think they do a great job of keeping the work current and exciting.
Wow, that certainly does sound like it's very, very special.
Yeah.
So tell us all a little bit about yourself and how you got started as an artist.
So I knew that this question was coming, and I've been thinking a lot about it, and I decided to show you my very first award, which is this towel that I won when I was 5 for drawing. It's a beach towel of an icy bear, and I won it in Florida for a drawing that I don't think they returned to my parents. So I don't have the drawing to show you. But for me, I was one of those kids that I loved art. I loved crayons. I loved color. My mother, I used to twirl. And my mother would take me, she would make all my costumes and she would take me around to fabric shops. And I think I just fell in love with fiber and fabric and the thread displays with all the color. And so I think when people think of my work, they think texture and color. And that's been a part of me forever. I went to art school. I went to the Mass College of Art for fashion design, actually. And while I was there, I really didn't know what fiber was, even though I had been probably doing some of these processes my whole life. I didn't really understand what it was as a medium. And there I really understood. I mean, I took every fiber course that was offered, from weaving to knitting to surface design and dyeing. So when I graduated from Mass Art, I actually started a business, not designing clothing, but doing accessories. And so I used to use metal templates like this, which you can see the relationship to what I'm doing now, to do velvet scarves. I would bake these images into the velvet. So, I have this long history of process. I'm not the person that goes to the store and buys something and makes something with it. I'm the person that goes and figures out what is that made out of, and I start from scratch. And so, in terms of this work, while I was showing the velvet, I was starting to notice, this would be in like the mid 2000s, other artists who were working in felt, primarily wearable. And it really just wowed me. Again, the color in felt, it's so saturated. It's like a chalk pastel where it doesn't throw any color away. It is so vibrant. And I was like, that's the medium for me, but I don't want to do more wearables. I want to do one of a kind artwork. What am I going to do? So first, this is an early piece where I was making the felt. I was just putting it under glass and putting it on a piece of wood. And, while there's something nice about this, it's hanging in my living room now. It wasn't enough. It wasn't until I incorporated woodworking and bringing my painting background, which I didn't really talk about, but growing up, I was always painting. I painted when I was at Mass Art until they told me fiber should be my game because I was adding so much texture to my paint. So people tell me now that my work has a painterly quality, but it's very firmly in the craft world, because it's process. It's, as we were saying, people want to touch it. It draws people in. It's just different. It presents different from fine art, even though it kind of walks the edge between fine art and craft.
I absolutely see that in your work, 100%. I wouldn't have been able to put my finger on it, but now that you said that, absolutely, there is that paint quality. And the felt, the colors are spectacular. I mean, this is just through the computer. I'm blown away by the colors.
Yeah, in person, I mean, it's hard for my work to translate over, that's why it is a bummer that we're not live. And quite honestly, I do sell the majority of my work live. It's hard to get a sense, but there is a real depth and undulation to the surface of this work.
You do get that vibe though, even looking at it through the computer, honestly, it doesn't look flat.
Yeah,
it does come across that depth for sure.
Good.
So Amy, tell me, what's your, I feel like every artist has a why, kind of a root of their passion.
Well,
why?
You could ask pretty much anybody that knows me. If I don't spend some time in my studio every few weeks, I get a little weird. I mean, it's very grounding for me. And it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's just innate that I have to create. I feel driven to do this. It's just who I am. It's how I express myself. I may be coming across verbally okay, but I'm really the person that expresses myself visually. Instagram, I don't do Facebook. I'm not always the best at chatting. I'm much better communicating visually. So the why, I can't really explain it. It's kind of magical. Thank God I have it, especially at this time, because rather than frittering away my time worrying and doom scrolling, I can make art.
Well, that's a really big why, the fact that you're so driven towards it. It really is. Beautiful thing. I do want to say one of our attendees, Eileen, said, thank you for doing this. Just beautiful. And you are super talented.
Oh, thank you.
Are they glued down? And what?
Oh, well, I will show you. That's coming.
Okay. Okay. Well, she was getting a little ahead of herself. She's getting excited. Which is great. We want everyone to get excited about it. So, but your work is not just fiber. What other materials and processes are involved in?
Okay. So I'm gonna segue into a couple of demos, but first I'm gonna talk about the wood. I do the bulk of my woodworking. I used to do all of it. I've gotten away from it a little bit purely because of having so many issues with my body, you know, my shoulders. I was using a router for far too many hours. So I'm like Adele, who no longer can hit those high notes. I need to strip back a little bit, but I'm still bringing, I'm gonna tilt the computer up a little bit. So this piece, I just finished it. This one here, this is walnut. And so I've built this frame. And what I do is I have the actual art on a piece of plywood that is attached, that sits lower than the surface of the walnut. So the art looks like it's embedded in one piece of walnut, but it's actually two pieces of walnut with plywood sitting back. So when I build a frame like this, I'm very much trying, I don't know if you can tell, but there's like sort of this round kind of gorgeous grain happening here. And then another one at the top. And I'm trying to make the composition harken back somewhat to what's going on here so that it feels like one unique piece, you know, one complete unified piece of art where the wood is part of the art. In other pieces, like this one is just a very simple oak frame. And for this, you know, I wanted to just give a hint of beach, you know, without it screaming the way it does in this piece. So each piece, I kind of think about the framing and the wood. So I think about that first. So now I'm going to segue into showing you a little demo of how I do the felt. And bear with me, I don't want to make people feel ill here.
So great to see your studio. What a treat.
Yeah, it's exciting for me. I've been in here about 3 months. So does that seem good?
Yep, that's great.
The table? Okay, I gotta put my hair up because I can't work with my hair down. So what I'm gonna show you here is how I get the dots in this felt. So and I'll explain more as I'm going, because what this piece is a series of pieces of felt that I cut and I turn it on the edge, which is what all of my work is. But when people always ask me, how do you get the dots in there? So I'm gonna show you.
Excellent, thank you.
So this is just gonna be a quick demo. This is wool roving. This is what I use. I always tell people it looks like cotton candy, and indeed it does. I have all of my felt organized by color. So this is my bin of greens, many greens.
Wow.
And when I decide what I'm going to do, I just pull it out and, okay, this one, I need some kind of limey green felt with white dots. So I'm going to just make a very small piece for you. I'm going to just get started, and it's going to be like a cooking show where I segue to the finished piece. So I would put some wool here. I took the time to take some white wool and first wet it and roll it into tubes. So I have all these tubes. I'm going to cut them so they're, and what I do is I intersperse them just kind of randomly in this case. And then I'll use a different color wool so that I have a little, and I go the different direction so that I have a bit of a nuance of color within the piece of felt, which further helps with, like, since I'm just working on one plane, it's hard to get like shadowing with my work. everything is done sort of flat. So by varying the color of wool that I use, I can kind of imply that. And
How long did it take you to come up with this process?
it has evolved. Nobody taught me how to do this. I can't even remember how I figured out how to do it. I think I was just imagining how I can't even tell you how I thought about doing the dots. Nobody taught me how to do felt making. It's a question of like seeing what you like and then figuring it out. I bought a book first, and it's kind of just evolved from there. So this should be boiling hot water, which it's not. And I would have taken a lot more time in how I just laid this out. So from here, I would very carefully now.
One of our attendees commented how fascinating it is to see the process. And
Oh, good. Well, so I'm not going to go crazy with this, because what I would typically do is spend about half an hour now flattening it, rolling it, rinsing it. So let's pretend that I just did that. And let it dry. And I have this. Okay.
Nice.
So now,
wow, the color really changes.
Well, this is a different green, but it's very similar. But it has white, you will see.
Okay.
And the next step for me, and this is where my painting background and the paint in my pieces comes into play, is I use gallons upon gallons of gel medium paste, which is like a glue, but it's really paint. It's part of what painters add to their paint to give it a certain viscosity. And for me, what it does is I couldn't really use the felt as you see it because it would be too soft and people wouldn't want to buy it because they would say, this is just a big mushy fuzzy thing. So the paint for me seals the edges, and the more paint I use on the pieces, the harder it gets. So you know that the base is felt, but the inside, but it's kind of embedded in acrylic paint. So it kind of gives it an archival quality. So what I would do is this is like a vintage butter knife that I love. I could also use a palette knife, but I prefer this vintage butter knife for many reasons. So I basically scrape this on, and I would let this dry, flip it over, do the other side, and I'm going to cut it even though it's wet.
What was in the water that made it look like sudsy?
Soap. I use olive oil soap as I work because it helps with the fiber. It helps to activate the fiber. So now I've cut it, and can you see the dots inside?
Oh yeah.
So basically I have strips of felt that are dotted. I'm sorry, I can't make it. So I would cut, obviously it's just after it dries. And then, as you can see, so how then that, but I would have many different versions that then build up, because you need to have a lot of different ones in order to get the overall effect.
Wow, so that's incredible.
That's the dotted felt. So now I will segue into a piece that I'm working on.
Terrific, thank you.
I have to move the computer one last time. So a theme for me that comes up in my work a lot are flowers. And poppies is one that are super popular. And I recently did a poppy piece, and I was showing people on Instagram along the way. Is this good? Is this a good angle? Should I get closer?
Yeah, yep, you're good. I can see the table very well.
Okay, so I I was working on this on and I Instagrammed it, and somebody who owns my lily pad piece that's on the Philadelphia, there's a piece that's all lily pads. She owns that piece. She contacted me while I was in the middle of it and was like, I love it. I want to buy it. I hadn't even finished it. This was a few months ago, and she's wonderful. And I had so many people respond on Instagram that they love that piece. So I thought I would make another one. Now, it's not going to be the same. They're never the same twice, but it's going to be in the same kind of general, theme. So I made this poppy earlier. These are X-Acto knives that I was just holding it in place. But I'm going to do a small poppy or part of a poppy. I think it will take about 5 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've taken black felt. Again, this is what the felt looks like. This is a piece I made. It's sort of actually a carbon gray roving, but when you felt it up, they always get darker. So it's black, and here it's got the paint. It looks like a piece of leather, right? It's very hard. So I cut it into strips, and I rolled it and held it together with painter's tape. So this will be my center. First, I need a big glob of the gel medium. So the question about, do I use glue? Well, if you want to think of this as my glue, that works. But this is the gel medium. I kind of goodge it on. And I do get paint all over my hands every day. I have lots of towels that I like. So I'm going to do a small poppy right here. I did the sky earlier. Typically I do the foreground and then build the sky, but for the purposes of this demo, I did the sky first. So I'm going to put the center right there.
Nice.
And I already have a sense in my head of what this poppy is going to look like. So
one of our attendees said that they met you at the Philadelphia show last year, and her name's Mary. She said she's a felter herself, and your work is so unique and beautiful. You'd never believe it, she said.
Oh, wow.
Figure out this unique method from wool fibers is so incredible. I'm extremely excited to see it.
Nice. Thank you. So what I do with the poppies is I'm pretty loose with them. I find the looser I am with the initial run, and this is not necessarily how I would do this if I wasn't trying to fit it in, but I try to be, again, in order to get that kind of painterly vibe where my pieces have movement, it's kind of a balancing act between working quickly and being meticulous. If you can, it's weird because you want it to have a gestural quality. So the very first run that I do, like here, I want it to be loose. And now I'm going to slowly and methodically fill in and kind of, at that point, kind of finesse what is happening with, and I may rip part of it out as I go when I see what the form is taking.
One of our attendees, Kathy, wanted to know how long would it take to finish a large piece like the one you're working on now?
So it's about 3 weeks total. So this poppy took me about 2 hours earlier today. The felt, as you see with the felt making, well, you didn't see anything really. You got the general gist. To make a piece of felt about this big takes me about half an hour. I need a lot of felt, like just for the sky, I think was maybe 8 pieces. And then it's a matter of cutting it and rolling it. There's drying time involved too. So, I tend to tell people a piece, the large work is 2 to 3, sometimes 4 weeks. So I'm not incredibly, is prolific the right word? It's like I'm not cracking out a lot of work. But the pieces that I do have a lot of energy in them. I only do one piece at a time, with the exception of my little squares, which I will do in series. But I do work I take my time with the work. You know, I wanted to have a certain calm, clear vision. And if I was jumping around, I don't think it would.
No,
And,
it's
you know,
incredible. It's
I
incredible.
also know I can't sell prints of my work, so you're getting the one and only. You know, it's not, I can't really do multiples. But so anyway, I'm not going to finish it, but I would now be like inserting all the pieces as I go. I mean, I could work if you wanted to ask me any questions while I talked, if that.
Yeah, one of the attendees, Nina, she wanted to know, do you ever have trouble letting a piece go?
Yes. Yeah, I fall in love with some of my own pieces, and it's really hard to let it go. But I tell you something, doing art fairs, I sometimes have people come up and they're so, it's like, I can't really explain the feeling that they give you, that they're so happy to have the piece in their homes, and then they send me images of it in their homes. So I kind of feel like I'm still living with it. And then uh, I also do feel like they're not always done until they're owned, you know, and it's like I can only own so many. So in a way, it's the finishing. Is the finishing is placing, it's like an adoption agency, right?
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
child, my children are going out into the world.
Exactly.
Um,
Deb wants to know, how do you protect the finished pieces from moths?
well, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. Malls are not too interested in things that don't have human oils on them. So my pieces, so I have a lot of paint that has been embedded all in the wool. And when I'm done with the piece, I spray them with this, which is varnish, like a painting is sprayed with. It's a UV protectant varnish. So the
Mhm.
entire thing actually has a layer of varnish. You don't really see it, but it soaks in. So, you know, I've been selling this work now for 15 years. I have a ton of repeat business, and nobody ever really has mentioned anything like that to me as happening. So I think is a non-issue.
That's great. Anne Elizabeth said, so for your pieces, it's like you find a home for them.
I do, yeah. I hope to, right? um, and then I think I was telling you, Elizabeth, at this point with the virus, you know, I have no desire to take a chance doing an art fair. Um, Zero. Most of you who have attended art fairs know how tight the booths are to next to one another, and my booth's always jammed with people. They want to touch a lot of people want to touch my work, which I'm not always that thrilled about, but I understand how tactile it is and inviting. I get it. But you're not going to see me at an art fair until everybody is 100% out of the woods. So I'm doing all of my work for the foreseeable future by commission. So the work that I have for sale at the show this week is the last batch of work that I will produce for now. I have a lot of work and I'm really pleased with it. And so work going forward will be by commission. And with commissions, you know, it's like sometimes people will love a piece, but it's the wrong size or the foreground is the wrong color. Other people ask me to interpret a scene for them. Like I just did a sunset scene 2 months ago for a woman, and the backstory she gave me on it was so emotionally intense. It involved jilted love and a trip to Haiti, and it was really intense. And it was really kind of cool for me to think about her story as I worked on the piece, and she loved it. And now it hangs above her fireplace. So I do have a lot of experience doing commissions. I've probably done over 100. So
Wow.
yeah.
Actually, one of our attendees, Annie, said that they met you at the Bayou City Art Festival in Houston, and they were so impressed that they did a commission, and they were hoping that you would explain your commission process so others can be aware.
Well, that is the process in terms of what you might want, in terms of how I like the nitty gritty of how you how I price it out and pay for it and all that. I charge $6 a square inch for the artwork. That doesn't include the wood. I let you choose amongst few different types of woods and a few different framing options. I'm very communicative along the way. Some people really want to be involved, and other people say, tell me when it's ready. I take a 50% deposit that's non-refundable. However, if I tell people if they don't like the piece when it's done, they can apply it to some other piece of my work. So, I always tell people I'm gonna do the piece for you, but it's going to please me first. And then typically always I have found that if I like it, they like it. It translates. So I will have no problem if somebody didn't want the piece in the end, that I'm happy to keep it and find a home for it, or maybe I'll keep it myself. But that hasn't been the case. So, but I think I get the vibe that people enjoy the commission process with me. A lot of artists don't do commissions. They find it just too much of a pain for them. But I actually really like it. It really pushes me outside of my comfort zone. And this might be the way going forward, And everybody, including me, has that spot. And they're like, God, I really should get something for that spot. Or they get sick of looking at something that they had. Maybe they bought something in college that's still on the wall. It's time to upgrade.
Time to change. And you know what? Now, today, it's such a great time to find art and buy art, because people are home so much more.
They are.
And what's better than being able to show,
Yeah.
to change up a room with a beautiful piece of art.
Right. And people tell me all the time, it's like, your work makes me smile. I mean, I've named pieces Smile. I just finished this one, which I was showing along the way on Instagram.
I love that.
And it's called Reasons to Be Cheerful. There is a song called Reasons to Be Cheerful, 1, 2, 3. I left out the 1, 2, 3. But, there are reasons to be cheerful. And I think art does that for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a couple more questions.
Okay.
How do you clean your art?
Oh, easy peasy. So the best thing to use is I use like a linen tea towel. Say this is on your wall. I'm gonna tell you again, there's so much gel medium worked into it. They're rock hard. That does not hurt the piece. Anything that's in the crevices will jump off, but by and large, my work does not attract any dust here. You might get some in the crevices. With a small piece, you can take it off the wall. That's it. Very simple.
Very easy. Stephen wanted to know, what's the name of that gooey, what was that paint kind of that you used in that?
Gel medium. It's I use the extra heavy matte gel medium from Golden. I like matte. I don't like anything shiny. There's nothing shiny about my work. And that's a personal preference.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What about, Jennifer wants to know if you teach any classes online.
No, but with how things are going, maybe I will. I typically haven't been able to. I tend to do about 15, 16 shows a year. And people say, well, that's just a weekend. No, it's not, because most of my shows are like in Texas or Florida, and I have to drive my work. So when I have a 2 or 3 day show, got 1 or 2 days of setup, travel there, travel back, and then I need couch time when I get home because I'm exhausted.
Covering.
And then I'm trying to fit in work in my studio. So I haven't had time to teach, but it might be something I do in the future.
Nice.
So watch my Instagram, because I would always say if I'm going to teach, I'll make an announcement there.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Annie said, looks like a lot of your inspiration comes from nature. What other things inspire you? For
sure, nature. Well, a lot of my pieces are floral. I love to garden. I used to have a massive garden. I now have a small garden, which in a way I like even more, because I have to be so thoughtful about where I put everything. I actually just photographed my whole garden, so I know where I'm moving next year. I've discovered dahlias. I'm in love with dahlias
Oh, they are gorgeous.
and zinnias for me. The two of them. So this piece was based on my zinnias. I can't quite, somehow I couldn't quite interpret the dahlias the way I wanted to, but they'll probably end up in my work. Um, and then I live on Cape Cod now, and so I do go through spats of ocean themed pieces. I don't, these pieces here are more very, they're of the seaside. They're seaside, but
Yeah.
they're not as oceany as I do. I like to interpret water. Again, get the movement. And I
Mm,
love working in the blue palette. That's my favorite color. So
mm. Yeah, the blues are spectacular.
yeah.
Jennifer also said those flower field pieces are so pretty and amazing.
Aw, thank
Nina
you.
said, I've seen your work numerous times at the ACC show in Baltimore. I adore what you do and would love to own one someday. Until
Aw,
then, I continue to visit your website and be inspired.
oh, awesome.
And Karen said your friends Anissa and Karen say hi and that you did a great job.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And David wanted to know, have you ever thought of vegetables as a subject? I can imagine such a piece, a giant textured salad as an entire wall of a restaurant.
Well, considering I have a big salad like Elaine from Seinfeld every single day for lunch, maybe I will. Maybe I will. Good one.
Good one. Thanks for the suggestion, David. Hopefully you own a very big restaurant and can hire her to do that commission work.
Yeah.
Well, this has been such a joy, Amy. Thank you so much for bringing
And I
us
hope I
into your world.
goodbye.
Really amazing to bring us into your world and show us your process. Really, I was blown away by it.
Thank you.
Obviously, the attendees were as well. I wish you a wonderful time at the virtual museum, Philadelphia Museum of Art Craft Show. Please visit their website at www.pmacraftshow.org, and it's also in the chat function, and we'll also send it to you in an email afterwards, so you'll know exactly where you can go and you can see more of Amy, and as well as another 149 other artists too. You can follow Amy on Instagram. Is it just your name, Amy Gillespie?
Amy Gillespie Studio.
Amy Gillespie Studio on Instagram. And I wish you a wonderful rest of the day. I wish you all to stay safe and stay healthy. And again, thank you so much. Thank you to the Philadelphia Museum of Art for bringing you to us. And wishing you very well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.